please come to the stage. Thank you. Your time starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to review my opposition's arguments. Then I would like to further construct my the opposition's arguments, and then I would like to summarize. Now, first of all, I would like to keep in mind that the resolution states that the access to healthcare ought to be recognized as a human right. We are not talking just about people living in the first world. We aren't talking about people living in Europe. We're not talking about people living in North America. We're talking about people living everywhere. We're talking about humans living everywhere. It is a human right. It should be given to every human, not just people who can afford it, whose governments can afford it, to every person. Secondly, one of their points was that it increases taxes. Now, I would like to point out that, and as I stated already, they've mentioned taxes in the first world perspective. Yes, in the first world perspective, tax increase may not be a lot. However, in third world countries, where the average wage is less than $50 a day, the tax will increase a lot. Single payer systems do cost, for an average person, they cost $400 more, as shown by statistics said by the leader of the opposition. In the U.S., it costs $5,615 per person. For Canada, it costs $5,988 per dollar.
You mentioned you mentioned that the increase in taxes would be a bad thing, but wouldn't it result in access to healthcare for people, let's say in Zimbabwe, even though they want to pay higher taxes? So paying higher taxes will mean that they'll get the access to healthcare that they don't have.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Definitely. The taxes may, the healthcare may improve. What's the point of healthcare if you cannot even afford the taxes? The taxes won't be fulfilled because the workers won't be earning enough to fulfill those taxes. Thus, the project won't even come off the ground. The infrastructure won't be made because you won't have enough funding to make those hospitals. You won't have enough funding to implement those research opportunities. You won't have enough funding to educate your doctors. When you are earning less than $50 a day, how much tax do you believe that individuals can give? My second point, another refutation we would like to make is that they mentioned, again, that making healthcare a human right would lead to more work days for workers, allowing them to work more. Now, that may be true. In first world countries, that is definitely true. But we aren't just talking about first world countries. Again, we are talking about human rights. We're talking about third world countries as well. And in third world countries, where they're working, again, I would like to link that to my previous point. They are working more, yes, but they are paying more taxes. They are paying more taxes, which they already can't afford. How do you think they will be able to feed their bellies at the end of the day? They won't. Healthcare, yes, it's needed, but this is not the way. Now I would like to further construct our point by giving an example. As the government has mentioned, they pointed to the fact of Canada, they pointed to the fact of the US, they pointed to the fact of the UK. However, they forgot to mention any third world country at this point. And I would like to specifically go into the healthcare of Pakistan. Now, Pakistan.
Just a correction, the government did present that Mexico also does not have access to it.
Sorry. Mexico as well. But again, a developed nation. We're talking about an undeveloped nation here. We're talking about Pakistan. Pakistan's healthcare is subsidized. The government's healthcare offered is subsidized healthcare. It is similar to the single payer system, yet not only does the government pay some parts of it, the individuals also pay some part of it. Now, the thing is, subsidized system costs less than a single payer system. It costs less as the individual also paying some money in. Yet, the quality of healthcare offered by developing nations such as Pakistan is so low that 80% of the healthcare provided to individuals is done by the private sector. Now, if you want to implement single payer system, it will only cause this situation to degenerate even more. Who can argue that developing nations have corrupt sectors, have corrupt institutions, have corrupt individuals working in those institutions? And this corruption in a single payer system where the government has even more power has more power, has more funding on it, and has more taxes to collect, who's to argue that more corruption won't occur? And this corruption can lead to this percent of 80%, 80% of healthcare being provided by the private sector increase tenfold. It may even go up to 90%. And that will lead to less access to healthcare being given than it already is. Now I'd like to further add to one of my points that my partner made about the UK. One of the points is that UK, which has a single payer system in the NHS, one of the earliest single payer systems. However, it's recently gone into a lot of trouble. The UK is not able to fund it by itself. It's not able to fund it through taxes only. It is thus the UK is starting to sell the NHS. It is starting to sell it to the private sector. In fact, recently, £780 million of the value of the NHS has been sold to the private sector. Now, as it is, this is the first step to going away from the single payer system. And as the government have repeatedly said, the single payer system is what they want to achieve. This clearly shows that even a first world country like the UK, which is already developed, which has the infrastructure, which is industrialized, which has affluent individuals, cannot afford to keep up with the single payer system. How does the government expect access to healthcare to be implemented as a human right when even first world countries cannot afford it? How does it expect Pakistan or Zimbabwe or Kenya or Jordan to implement them implement a single payer system? Thus, I would like to summarize my points. We repeated the government's talk about this only going to countries who can afford it. As this is a human right, it goes for everyone. And the further we talked about how third world countries should also be given consideration.